Go ahead.
Welcome to Look Around Florida. Sean will be up next.
Hi guys, how y'all doing tonight? My brothers and my sisters in the SCV OCR UDC. Uh, we have Gail Jessee. She's behind the scenes right now. We'll be bringing her up shortly. We're going to be talking about the Gamble's Mansion. Hey, cousin Vinny, good to see you, buddy. So we're going to be talking about Gamble's Mansion here in a little bit, what's going on with it, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So we got some good 4th of July parades coming up. Keep an eye on our Facebook page. I'm posting them on there as soon as I get them. Linda and Roy Hudson, I got to post yours. If anybody is in Naples, Homestead, Fort Lauderdale on July the 1st, come and hang out with me down in Naples. We'll be in Everglades City July 1st. Meetup is 9 o'clock at the town center. Come and join us. We'll be doing a parade, helping out with the cannon salute, all that stuff. So that's going to be at 9 a.m. on July 1st in Everglades City. Meetup is town square. Hey, Beth. Hey, Jeffro. Make sure you click like and share this episode. This is going to be a good one. Hey, Linda, I just talked about you and Roy. I got to post your 4th of July thing on the Facebook page. So keep an eye on that page. I know a lot of you are probably going to be on Facebook and YouTube. So keep an eye. I'm getting it. Camps are sending stuff in, and I'm posting daily on updates from camps if they're doing a parade or anything for the 4th of July. We have a cool thing running right now. I just posted on the Facebook page on Look Around. This was sent to me by one of their camp members, or camp commander. I forget his position, but yeah, SCV Camp 1865, First Lieutenant Commander Walt Cook sent this in. They're doing a fundraiser raffle on a custom-made cooler. It does have the SCV logo on it. So it looks pretty cool. Details on that are on our Facebook page. If you want information on that, please send an email to scvcamp1865.com. No, that's their website. I'm sorry. If you're on YouTube. So with that, let me get this out of the way so I don't get in trouble, Gail don't get in trouble, and I keep my bosses off my back, so to speak. Oh, thanks, Jeffro, for that. That's right. Yeah, I talked to them at the reunion. They seem like a bunch of cool guys that you want to go and have a beer with. Keep in mind, Arkansas is coming up. Love to see you. Adjutants, just a reminder, keep sending those reports in to Rick Roberts. With that being said, we're going to bring Gail up. Good evening, Gail. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me on tonight.
Oh, you're more welcome to. I mean, woo! It's been a long, warm day. So what's going? How long have you been in the OCR and UDC?
Well, I joined the UDC in 1969, and I've been an active member for 54 years.
Wow!
And yes, and in 1976, I founded my own chapter, which was called the Confederate Cantoneers, and we functioned for 42 years, and unfortunately, we disbanded in 2018. And when I disbanded the chapter, then I moved my membership over to Lakeland, because that's where I live. and joined the Annie H. Darracott chapter, which is very active and a wonderful bunch of ladies, and I really enjoy being with them. For the OCR, I've been a member around 14 years, and in 2016, I became a lifetime member, and my chapter is affiliated with the mansion. It's the Ellen Clark McNeil chapter, and her first husband, Mr. Clark, passed away. Then she married Captain McNeil, who was a sea captain, and they lived in the mansion from 1862 to 1872.
Wow.
And yes, and on the state level with OCR, I'm currently serving as the society secretary.
And congratulations on that.
Well, thank you.
I know we all had fun just a few weeks ago up there in Trenton.
Yep. Had a full house.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you guys did it. We did too.
Yeah, we were all in tight quarters there.
Yep. But it was a good turnout for the OCR and the SCV.
Yes, it was. We're very pleased to see the numbers.
Oh yeah. So tell us about Gamble's Mansion a little bit.
I've been involved with Gamble Mansion since 1969,
Mm-hmm.
and when I joined the UDC, I was invited by the local chapter down there, which is the Judah P. Benjamin chapter, to come down and participate in a few things and their activities. And I've been doing it ever since. And I've volunteered as a tour guide. I've done living history. We've had a lot of activities. I'm still doing ongoing research about Major Gamble and the plantation. As you might know, there isn't a lot of information because when he left there, he stored a lot of his journals and things relating to the plantation, and it was struck by lightning and burnt down. So,
Yeah.
and I became a charter member of the Gamble Plantation Preservation Alliance, which was formed in 2000. And for those that don't know what Gamble Plantation Preservation Alliance means, it's a citizen support organization that is chartered specifically for a park, and we are chartered for Gamble Mansion. And we hold our own money when we have fundraisers and so forth. We use that money directly for the park. If you were to come for a tour, as you said you did recently before coming to the SCV reunion,
Yeah.
if you wanted to donate money to the park and you gave it to the office staff there, say you had a check for $500 that you wanted to give, it would not stay with that park. It would go to Tallahassee for the general fund. They may or may not get any of the funds back, but having a citizen support organization, any money that we raise stays with us and we spend it on the park. We work very closely with the park manager to find out what is not being funded that we can help him with through his budget, and then we assist him that way. We just bought a $15,000 utility truck for him.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and you lovely ladies have donated furniture and other artifacts over the years.
Yes. When you take the tour, they will tell you that none of the furniture that's in the mansion is original to the home, only because he gave a lot of his furniture to his sister. And what she didn't want, we put in storage, and of course, when it was struck by lightning, it burnt down. Everything in there is period appropriate, however. It's just not original to the home. And the UDC has been involved since 1925. The mansion, in its latter days, was owned by the fertilizer company, Armour Fertilizer Company, and they offered it to the city of the county, the Manatee County. They didn't want it. Then they offered it to the state, and the state, you know how the state is, that it takes them forever to make a decision on anything. And he had investors who were wanting to buy the property and tear down the house and, make a subdivision out of it. And so finally he told the UDC, either you're going to buy it or you're not. Well, I don't know, many people know that it wasn't until 1942 that women could even own property in the state of Florida. And so they could not buy the property. And so they applied pressure to their husbands, who some were senators, judges, and clerk of the circuit court and so forth. And it was 5 gentlemen who went together and bought the property. Now the UDC in later times raised the money to reimburse them. So, but if you pull the deed, UDC is not on the deed. It was bought by men because we were not allowed to own property. So anyway, and then it was turned over to the state. The governor at that time, I can't recall his name at the moment, accepted it, and the UDC was very heavily involved in pressuring the legislature to appropriate money to begin restoration on it. Now, it wasn't put back like it originally was, only because the people that were hired to do it were men that were in the WPA work program. And that was during the Depression. And so when you're touring the mansion, if you look at the mantles, no 2 mantles are the same. It's whatever piece of wood fit there. And but now it is antique because of how long it's been since they restored it. They changed a few things, like the upstairs, the windows went all the way to the floor, and now they don't, because at that time you wanted breeze through a cross breeze through the house. And I believe that's the parlor. And the mantle is very pretty, but if you think that there's a standard mantle size all the way through the house, there is not.
Oh, sorry. I'm going off. I'm going off of the Gamble's Mansion Facebook page. If you guys want to check out their page, the link to it is scrolling at the bottom of the screen. Okay, there's the map, because I had your picture up on your fundraising. So.
Okay. Well, that's the cistern you're seeing on the side of the mansion there. They did not have a well on the property because they were too close to the river and the water was not potable. And so what they did was they built this cistern which holds 40 gallons of water, rainwater, and the chute coming off of the roof there, it went into the first compartment, and then there's a limestone wall that separates the 2 compartments, which is a natural filtering system, and then it filters into the back compartment, and that is the drinking water. Now, you couldn't just go and get a dipper full, because they had to keep live minnows in there, because standing water is a haven for mosquitoes to lay their eggs. So, of course, the water still had to be boiled, but at least they had drinkable water that they could immediately access.
Well, I know there's a few of you that just joined the chat. Thank you all for joining tonight. And thank you, Commander in Chief, for joining the show tonight. All right. Okay.
And that's the kitchen.
Yep.
And the back two rooms of the mansion were the first to be built, and then the front part was built because needed a place to stay, and of course you want a kitchen, and I'm sure there was an outside kitchen as well, and there were no stairs at that time. There were rope ladders because remember, you're living in Indian territory and you're in hostile territory. And so, in order to ensure that you can be safe, you would pull your ladders up, and there would be no way that they could, unless they're very good at climbing walls,
right,
and so forth. So, but then when the front part of the mansion was built, and there was a reason for not having the traditional when you walk in the front door, you're in the parlor, is that again, you're still in Indian territory and you want to funnel them in so that they just can't burst in the front door and be upon you. So they have to go down a side hall in order to get to the parlor and then straight on to the dining room. The picket fence was a big sore spot for us for many years because Tallahassee wanted the fence, and thank God it came down in the late 70s or early 80s. I mean, it dwarfed the mansion unbelievably. I don't know. They didn't consult us. They just put it up. So,
right. That's funny. There we go. There's a view of what you were talking about earlier.
yes. The walls are 3 feet thick, and the reason for that being is it helps to keep the interior cool in the summertime and warm in the winter. But we know Florida weather is just going to be hot in the summertime.
Well, it's going to be hot and like right now, wet.
Yep. Yep. I think we got a hurricane brewing down south of us somewhere.
Probably. Yeah, they said on the thing last night it just came off the coast of Africa and possible coming this way. There's some more pictures of the.
That was the kitchen.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's the museum. Right?
Yes, that's the visitor center, which has a small museum in it. And when you go in there, there are artifacts, original artifacts from the era, and one of them is the sexton for Captain McNeil, who during the war he was the commissary agent for the Manatee area, and he shipped goods up and down the coast, and he was very adept at evading the Yankees, and they tried every way in the world to catch him. They never did, and they thought they had caught him one time, him and Judah, and they ran out the back door while some of the women went out the front to detain them till they could get to the cane brake in the back. So that's the sugar mill ruins sign, and at one time it was the largest and most modern sugar mill in the United States. And the Union troops, black Union troops, came up the river and thought that the house, which after Robert Gamble had left, he turned it over. His brother-in-law was the principal mortgage holder, and so he turned it over to his brother-in-law to sell because he just signed off on everything. But his brother-in-law is one that sold it. He sold it to two planters in Louisiana, Cofield and Davis, and the Federals thought it belonged to Jefferson Davis. So they raided the sugar mill and blew it up and said they used so much gunpowder and explosives that people thought an earthquake had happened and scared a lot of people. They didn't do any damage to the mansion. They did go in and steal a lot of stuff, food mostly, and books and things like that, anything that they thought might be of value. That they weren't going to drag off any furniture because what are you going to do with the furniture? But they camped out front for a few days thinking that McNeil was going to come back, and he didn't. And they killed the children's pet calf and fried it up for breakfast and lunch. And so Yankees are Yankees. What can I say?
True, true.
That's the plantation bell, and that was for calling the, letting them know when to go to work, and letting them know when it was lunchtime, and letting them know when it was quitting time. And contrary to popular belief, everybody, a farmer of that period, worked from sunup to sundown because that was the working time. You got up before sunup, went to where you were going to do your work, and it wasn't always right in your backyard, so it took a little time to get there. And when sunup came, then you would start your work, and you would work until you had no daylight to work. Mm-hmm. So ask any farmer at any time what kind of day they have, and it's not a 9 to 5. Correct. You have to be ready to work when you have daylight. Now the plantation, even though it was one of the most modern of that time, was not successful. And it wasn't because Major Gamble was not a good farmer. He built his first sugar mill out of wood, gets his first crop processed and everything, and then an accidental fire burned it to the ground. So the insurance paid him $15,000, and so he built it out of tabby the second time around. Brought in equipment from New Orleans, and so it had the biggest and most modern machinery available at the time. Well, about the time he's getting ready to get his next crop in or harvest it, there is a freeze. So he loses his crop. Then he has two hurricanes shortly thereafter, one that comes in from the east and drives all the water out of Manatee. And then after that, a year later, he has one coming from the west that drives all the water from the Gulf into the Manatee River, and it just about destroys the Manatee village. A lot of people suffered from that. And then you think, well, it just can't get any worse. Well, it does. About the time he gets another crop in and ready to harvest it, they discover the sugar beet. So the price of sugar bottoms out. So if it wasn't for bad luck, the poor man wouldn't have any luck at all.
Yep.
So about 1856, 58, he decided, I've had all of this I can stand. And so he turned it over to his brother-in-law, and he went back to Tallahassee because that's where his family was from. And he married a woman of means, and so he did very well from then on. But he just kind of disappeared from history really didn't make an impact in Tallahassee. So I don't know why, but just one of those things.
You would think he would have some type of impact because he was somewhat connected, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. His family, his father had been a banker, and that was the reason he came to Manatee. Uh, his father established the Union Bank out of Tallahassee, and unfortunately, when his father was over in Europe securing more funds and backers and so forth, they were overextending here, and the bank failed. And so his idea was that he would come to Manatee because he was in the Seminole Indian War, and they fought in the area close to there, and he discovered that the land would be perfect for sugarcane because he had grown sugarcane for his uncle, who was also named Robert. so, so it's really hard to do genealogy on them because there's lots of Roberts and they're all related, and so and sorting out who's who and all of that. Anyway, he was a very good farmer. He even managed his uncle's plantation in Tallahassee, outside of Tallahassee, and they grew tobacco and got very well established. In fact, had a um, a cigar that was very prominent in New York as well as in Cuba. And unfortunately, as things will happen, the tobacco worm showed up. And at that time, there was no insecticides that you could use to get rid of them. You had to hand pick them off. And it became so labor intensive. Uh, they all decided they were just going to burn everything down, and they did. And then they started planting sugarcane. And so that's how he got knowledgeable to become the sugar cane plantation owner down in Ellington. He was trying to recoup his family's fortune. It just didn't work out for him. Just did not.
Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to get back to that one picture because okay, that's the ruins. As soon as I find it, there we go.
That's a memorial garden in the back. So
Yeah.
um, we sell the bricks, and anyone can put a brick there. You don't have to have any affiliation with the mansion, the park, or the GPPA. If you would like to put a brick to remember a family member, an ancestor, or in honor of someone, it doesn't have to be a deceased person, it can be in honor of someone. Uh, we just fill out the paperwork, and they're in the visitor center on the wall, and give the check, and it will be installed.
Cool. Yeah. So you're hoping to grow this memorial gardens.
Yes, we've got quite a few, and uh, not every one of the ones that you see there in the picture are engraved. Only a very small portion. The only problem with trying to expand them further out is that we can't do any digging without the state coming and making sure, that we do it in the proper way with archaeology and so forth.
Right.
So, but we can pull those up and put one back in its place. So there's plenty of space, plenty
Cool.
of space.
Guys, ho- yeah, we just had Father's Day,
That's right.
and we have a few more holidays coming up.
Yeah. And the bricks are $100, and it's 3 lines of writing, and I think 13 characters, 12 or 13 characters per line. So
Cool.
you have to be a little selective on what you say, but it can be in honor of and a person's name and a date. So, well,
Have you has any SEV chapters or UDC or OCR chapters have
yes, we have several bricks that UDC chapters have purchased, several bricks that honor people's ancestors, not specifically from the mansion, but you know their Confederate ancestor wherever they served from,
Mhm.
because everybody is you know a conglomerate. You have UDC chapter members that have ancestors from all over the United States, so
Yep.
it's most welcome to do any of that. So
Cool.
yeah, and
Yeah. Yeah.
and that money stays right there on the park to help with the park. We used to do a Halloween event, which was really successful, and we did it at night, but only on the first 5 floors because we didn't want anybody going up and down the stairs at night. And each room had a theme, and it was very successful. And then the COVID came along, and then all of these issues with taking down monuments, and the word Confederate became an ugly word. And we used to rely on the high school students to come out and volunteer and get credit for their community hours for the graduation. And now they won't come out. Even if they wanted to, peer pressure is pretty
Yep.
rough in high school, in junior high, and all of that. So I fully understand. And there's Judah P. Benjamin. He stayed at the mansion, and Ellen actually made him a outfit that was made of denim, and at that time, denim was considered the working man as a disguise, and put pockets in it because he had some gold with him in order to pay everybody as he made his way south to eventually get to England. And he had a pretty rough time getting to England, and but he did um, eventually get there, and he became counsel to the Queen, and had a very productive life as a lawyer there. His wife was living in Paris. Uh, for the majority of his married life, him and his wife lived separate lives for whatever reason. And anyway, when he went to England, he when he retired from his law practice, he moved to Paris, and he died in Paris with his wife. And there's a chapter over in Paris in his honor, UDC chapter. So
Wow. I didn't know
yeah,
that. I mean,
yeah,
I've heard stories, but that's about it. Because with the SCV, we got camps in Europe. I didn't know UDC also. I would
yep,
have figured that, but yeah.
yep. There's the mansion again.
Okay.
We have a it's called NetWeave, and they do a lot of our monitoring for our Facebook page,
Yeah.
and those are the things that they post. Local interests. If you're in the area to go and visit and support the businesses nearby, as well as come and see the mansion, and they do a very good job for the most part. There's been a
Yeah.
couple of times I've been a little anxious over some of the things that was posted, but for the most part, and
Yeah, because I can remember as a kid going up and down I-75, you would see the signs, Gamble's Mansion, get off here.
yep,
Like I said, I went up there a couple years ago and I didn't see those signs anymore. Was that due to road construction or?
Well, now coming south on I-75, there is a green sign that says Gamble Plantation,
Mhm.
and I'm I haven't really paid it. I don't really go beyond that point. You know, when I get off at 301, I'm going to the mansion.
Yeah,
So I haven't come up the other way to see, and I'm sure there certainly is because we do get visitors coming in there all the time. So, and usually on a good year, we'll have 50,000 visitors, and a lot of them were before the COVID were from overseas. We had a
wow,
3 or 4 buses of Japanese people, and we've got Germans and Italians and all sorts of nationalities coming to visit.
that's cool.
It is
Now,
cool.
since the COVID and or the malarkey go on, has the attendance there dropped at all?
Yes, it has, and it's unfortunate that the C word has become such a negative uh, word for us that unfortunately, we are one election away from losing everything for the Confederate Mansion because there's been an article and a video, and it's come out recently within the last month or two, wanting to get rid of Judah P. Benjamin from the plantation. They want the word Confederate removed. They want the UDC off of the property, and um, it's we just have to be vigilant. There's no way to stop it.
Mhm.
It's, it's right now hate sales, unfortunately, and people can you. I don't agree with the idea. You know, you need to educate them. If they wanted to be educated about the history, they would be. But trying to explain to them that you cannot apply 21st morals to 19th century, it just doesn't work.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, people will not listen to that. You know, they want to right the wrongs of history. Well, there's no way to do that unless we go back in time. There is absolutely no way that the present can alter history. You can eradicate it, and that seems to be the common thing that's going on now. They use the term diversity, equity, and inclusiveness. Well, I don't know that they understand what inclusive means because they will not include the Confederates or anybody that has an affiliation with the Confederates. And so to me, that's exclusion. That's not inclusion, but not everybody sees the same things that I see. And I have to be vigilant with the UDC to keep them apprised that, you know, we've got to write letters, we've got to be vigilant, and we've got to stay positive about Confederate history. And unfortunately, not everybody is on the same page.
Yep, correct. Is there any upcoming plans for the mansion?
Well, uh, we do host 2 car shows. We do one in March and one in November, and that is right now our principal fundraisers. And uh, I don't want to sound negative, but it seems that they're even the haters are trying to stop the car shows as well because they're coming to a Confederate site. They're honoring the Confederates, and the car show has nothing to do with that. They're just displayed on the grounds, and if they want to tour the mansion, then they pay a fee just like everybody else,
Mhm.
and it's not a free tour. You have to pay through the state. You get a tour guide, either a ranger or a volunteer, and so all the cars are displayed on the grounds, and people come out and picnic and walk through and look at all the cars and buy parts, and they have trophies for various categories, and it helps the park, and it helps the car show people as well. So it's a win-win, but unfortunately, people don't always see things like that.
Right.
So, but that's the only two fundraisers that we have that we're doing. We still are renovating some of the interior by having furniture reupholstered that's in bad condition, installing new curtains and bed coverings and so forth. And if there is an item that is that got in the mention that was not quite appropriate, then we find a period appropriate and remove that. And one of the things that we did was the coffee grinder that we had in the kitchen
Okay.
was much later than the time frame for the mansion. So we found a period appropriate one and purchased that and put it into the kitchen. So things like that.
Where I think I know majority of everybody in the chat, but for people that are not familiar with Manatee County, uh, you take I-75 to 301, 301 west, uh,
Hmm.
about a couple miles down on the right hand side, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And you can come and picnic. You don't even have to tour the mansion if you don't want to. Just walk around the grounds, view everything, have a picnic. We have a nice pavilion, and there's also picnic tables with grills, and so it's a nice, very nice outing. Unfortunately, we don't have trails. We don't have uh, bike paths. We don't have boat ramps. All we have is our beautiful mansion, which is the oldest existing structure in Manatee County and the
Wow.
only surviving plantation on the west coast of Florida.
Hmm.
Excuse me.
That's all right. Now there's if you face into the house, right? To the right, there's a couple markers. Yeah, a couple markers over
Yes, there's two monuments there that, and you will notice when you're looking, standing and looking at the mansion, there is also a sundial. Well,
there. Yes.
the sundial and the two monuments, and one is the for World War One veterans, and there's only Florida only has I can't remember right now, but there's very few markers in Florida or Manatee County to World War One veterans, and the plantation has one. The other one is dedicated to Confederate veterans. To and then they were all done in 1937. They had a big turnout to have for the dedication. They had a lot of dignitaries, and there's a picture shows the National Guard there, and from 1937, and it was quite a deal. There's the sundial. We just had it refurbished.
Ooh.
It was vandalized by some teenagers, and they broke off the blade that, and there's another name for it, and I can't think of it at the moment. That the shadow casts on the number to tell you what time it is, and they broke it off. And so we called a company in, and they came out and looked at it, and they said, well, we'll have to have that piece cast specifically for your sundial. And So they did, and it took about 6 weeks to get it done, and then they refurbished everything, and it's gorgeous now. It is beautiful.
Ooh, I got to stop by and get a picture of that.
Yes, it's gorgeous. And there is a bronze marker right at the front door of the mansion that talks about Judah P. And we had that refurbished, the GPPA, and that's beautiful too. They really did a phenomenal job. So that company was highly recommended.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, just it- going through the pictures, trying to get the ones as you're talking.
Most people don't even pay attention to the sundial. I mean, it's just sitting there, and no one really pays attention to it. But
There is a picture of the front of the house.
yeah, and uh, about 4 years, 3 or 4 years ago, we put up back in the in the parking lot. There is a piece of machinery that's part of the sugar mill process, and it's a grinder, I think. I'm not sure what it is, but anyway, right next to it, we put up a sign telling about the slave cabins. And if you are looking at the monuments, behind the monuments, there it is. There's a sugar press, a sugar cane press. They run the stalks through it and it squeezes out the juice. Well, right next to the right of that is the sign that has an etching of, from the only descriptions that we have from Robert Gamble, about the houses that were built for the slaves when they first got there, and they were palm logs and then sable palms, because there were so many sable palms everywhere. They just chopped them down and uh, stacked them up. You can't saw them like wood because they're too fibrous, so they're not good for planks or anything. So, and then they thatched the roofs, and then later on they got more permanent structures, which were the tabby. But if you're looking at the two monuments that were put up in 37, right behind them is the only existing canal that was built by, or dug by, the slaves. And we have been trying for about 4 years now to get the state to let us put a sign up acknowledging the hard work that the slaves did to this canal, which is still in use. It feeds right into the Manatee River, and it was part of the irrigation system for watering the sugarcane. There was 16 miles of trenching and canals dug on the property in order to make sure that the sugarcane had the adequate watering that it needed. It can't stand in water, but it has to have a lot of water. So
Correct. Yeah, I'm trying to.
they don't picture the sign very much, and I don't know why.
Yeah, and I'm on the Facebook page under the section called Public Pictures,
Yeah.
and yeah, yeah, this is the only sign that I can find.
Yeah, that's the Patton House in the background, and that's the front gate or front entrance.
Now, that house there, are they thinking about restoring it?
Well, it belonged to the Pattons, and he's the one that bought the mansion for back taxes in 1872,
Mhm.
and they lived in the mansion until his family did, his son. He what he did was when he passed away, his youngest son, who was the last one to be born in the mansion, lived in the mansion with his wife and his mother, Mrs. Patton. And once she passed away, his wife says, "I've had enough of this old house. I want a new one." And she built her an 1890s uh, farmhouse, which set when you're driving into the mansion, it would have sat on the right towards 301, facing 301. Later on, when the mansion was bought and restored, and then the Patton house was still sitting there, the UDC chapter, the Judah P. Benjamin chapter, bought the Patton house and had it moved to where you see it now, where it faces the road going into the park. It is in very poor condition. The state uh, appropriated quite a bit of money to have it restored, based on the estimates from the contractors that came out and bid on it. Well, the one that finally won the bid didn't realize that the understructure was so dry rotted and termite ridden that it was going to take a lot more money to restore it. Now, the state came and talked to the UDC about what there was several options that could be done. If they restored it using the money that the state appropriated, which was not adequate, the UDC would have to raise the other part. Well, the UDC didn't have or didn't want to raise the money or add, because they felt like it belongs to the state should pay for it. Well, the state just didn't have the funds for it. And one of the options was that if it is restored and if you come up with the money, it will no longer be on the historical register, because more than 90% of the wood has to be removed. And
Wow.
so it's no longer old. Or the third option was that they could demolish it, build it a replica of it, and bring it up to code, have air conditioning, have heating, and indoor running water, and and they could rent it out and all of that. And the UDC didn't want that particular option either. So right now it's just sitting in limbo. So we don't know what the state will eventually do. Uh,
Well, Gail, a question did come up from Jeffro Cotton at the car show. He asked, "Can SCV and OCR set up a booth at the car show?"
I will have to check with the car show people and see. I won't say yes and I won't say no, but I will say a maybe.
Cool.
Yeah.
I know there was another question. This is comes from our Tennessee division. Gail, do you have any Tennessee relatives?
Not that I know of, but that I'm aware of, but it could be a possibility.
Yeah, I'm just catching up on the questions.
Well, if they're going by Jesse, yes, my husband has relatives in Tennessee.
Hey, Bobby. Come on, guys. We got Gail here. Ask questions.
Yeah, I'll answer them to the best of my ability. If you want to know something, let me know.
Jeffro did bring up an interesting question. Do they still have the Christmas event there?
Yes, they do.
Cool.
The UDC has, I think it's the uh, first full Sunday in December.
Oh, okay. Now, I know you guys did this last year at the mansion, but are you planning to do it again? The Living History reenactment event.
Uh, I don't know because I'm not on that committee that does the events with the UDC events. So I learn when everybody else learns that, gets posted on the calendar that uh, when they're going to do the open house, which is usually in March, and then they have the Christmas event in December. Those are the only two events that I know that the UDC does at this time. Sometimes at Christmas, they will have reenactors out, and sometimes at the open house in March, they have reenactors out.
Cool.
Yeah. And at that time, SCV, UDC, OCR could set up booths at those events. They would just have to contact the chairwoman, and I would have to find out who that is for them and post that, and they can contact that individual and find out what the parameters are for setting up a booth.
Cool. I would love to hear more about that. Oh, sorry, David. David thinks we're maybe Jesse and him may be related. Something in Sevier County, Tennessee.
He would have to talk to my husband about that. All I can say is that he did have a family in Tennessee right there on the border.
Wow, guys, a lot of good questions tonight. Gail, it's always a pleasure. If you got anything going on at Gamble's Mansion, let me know and I'll get the word out for you.
Okay.
We'll be, yeah, we've been going and talk about the Gamble's Mansion for about an hour strong. This is good.
Well, it went faster than I thought.
Exactly. And that's the thing about this show is a lot of our speakers, when they do come on, we get good conversation going between me and them and our chat heads. Time flies when you're having a good conversation going.
Yep. And please bring as many people to come and visit the mansion as possible. Leave positive statements on our Facebook page, which is Gamble Preservation Plantation Preservation Alliance, and spread the word to bring people out. There's things to do there. Like I said, we don't have hiking paths or bike rides or any of that, but it's a beautiful, tranquil place to go and have a nice afternoon.
Correct. I enjoyed going there, and it's been years since I've been there, and I took two of my camp members that never been there, and we enjoyed it. That's probably Jeffro calling you.
No, my alarm.
I had to pick on you, Jeffro. Linda says, thank you so much for letting us pick your brain about the beautiful mansion and its history, Gail.
My pleasure. I never get tired of talking about the mansion because I'm doing ongoing research. I want to do a lot more relative to Ellen Clark McNeil, and she was quite a strong woman, and she ran the plantation while her husband was out evading the Yankee blockade runners. And, uh, she ran the plantation while he was gone. So
Mhm.
she was quite a woman.
Yep. All righty. We're going to wrap this up.
Well,
Like I
thank you
said,
for having me.
Gail, thank you for coming on. Maybe your husband could come on at a later date when
Okay.
all he has to do is poke me and say, "Hey, let me know."
Okay. Well, we're going
Uh,
to be gone for a little while. We're going up to Gettysburg. He's going to be
cool.
portraying Robert E. Lee up there, and uh, so this is quite an honor for us. So we'll be leaving shortly for Gettysburg, Pennsylvania.
So I'm gonna miss you and Thomas being in Arkansas. Then
Yes.
I'm sorry to hear that, but
Yeah. But
yeah,
we'll be in Charleston.
you got that right. I'm definitely going to that one
Yes.
because a little bit southwest of Charleston is a family cemetery that's tied to me, and I have three Confederates buried in there with my that I'm related to.
Awesome.
So I definitely want to go check them out.
And check out the Hunley while you're in Charleston.
Exactly, because the last time I went to one, it's like the shirt I'm wearing was back in 2000. The biggest topic there was the Hunley and the crew.
Yep, that's right.
Alrighty,
Well,
with
it's
the
been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, and I hope I answered questions. And if anybody has some that they want answered, just let me know, and I'll answer them the best I can at some other point in time.
yeah, thanks, Gail. You have a good night, and let your husband know I said hi, and hopefully he has a good night too.
Okay, thank
All
you.
right, we're going to be
Bye.
ending the show with this video that Thomas Jesse did for the SCV.
Oh,
Y'all
I gotta
have a
watch
good.
that one.
Oh yeah. Y'all have a good evening. Stay southern.
When my mother was in college, she danced with Confederate veterans. To me, it wasn't that far away. My father knew this. My mother knew this. Almost 50 years ago, I joined the Sons of Confederate Veterans. In those days, we weren't concerned about saving monuments or any of those things. That wasn't necessary. In fact, none of us had any remote idea that it would ever come up. We can't just sit there and react. We have to be proactive. Or, as Robert E. Lee said, the best way to disrupt your enemy's plans is to strike first. Everyone should do all in his power to collect and disseminate the truth, in the hope that it may find a place in history and descend to posterity. History is not the relation of campaigns and battles and generals or other individuals, but that which shows the principles for which the South contended and which justified her struggle for those principles. If you're looking for some place to be where you think you're going to accomplish something to save our history, go to the Sons of Confederate Veterans. I'm Thomas Lee Jessee. I'm a descendant of Private Daughtery Gilmer, a Confederate veteran.
Thank you all for joining the chat tonight. I'll be seeing you next Tuesday, same time, same channel. Have a good evening, all.
Good night.